We're going to do a couple announcements, and then we can jump into songs. Did everybody get pizza? Hopefully.
I feel weird with the mic. Can you guys hear me?
Dang it. Welcome. I can see none of you are front pew people. Looks like a lot of you are left side of the room people too. Thank you for doing that. It's all good. It's just, you learn about people. I think we use the bad chairs on this side.
Maybe that's why.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. We're excited to have you. I'm glad that we could get some air conditioning tonight, because I don't know. Some of you may not know, our regular room is on the other side of the building, and we usually open the garage door, which is awesome, except when it's 100 degrees. Then it's a little warm. So this is where we're going to be tonight. But it's really good to see you guys. It's been a week. A quick announcement, the toilets. Who wants to explain where the toilets are from here?
Some actually know.
Get a vet.
This time I will demonstrate.
That's where the bathrooms are. If you couldn't hear it, it's a right, left, right sort of thing. Normally we have to do that in the other room because it's literally an adventure to go find them. So we just had to keep the tradition going tonight of Matty Ice explaining the bathrooms. Thank you, bro. Big announcement is on the 26th, we're going camping. I am so pumped. It's going to be so good. Scan the QR code to register. We were trying to figure out how to do food, and I think we found a really good way. We're going to do $5 for every meal that you guys want to eat from us. You guys are obviously more than welcome to bring your own food and prep your own food while we're up there. But if you guys want to eat food from the young adults food pile, I guess. Here, Maddie, come explain the menu. My sister, everybody, Maddie Schwartz.
Okay, guys, you can pull up the QR code, and each meal will have its own menu. And if you want to eat it with us, click it. I don't know why I'm up here. Each meal will be $5. So if you want to do all the meals with us, it'll be $30. If you're like, ew, chili, gross, don't click that one and don't pay us those $5.
Does that make sense? I'm really, really excited because we're going to do some hiking. We're going to do some camping. We're going to do just a lot of hanging out. It's going to be so much fun. Hi, Joel. Yeah, so I'm really pumped. If you were in church today, you probably saw the announcement. We're going to announce it again next week. So I think there's going to be a ton of people. I'm really looking forward to it. Register by Wednesday, a week from, is that? A week from Wednesday. Register by then, and we'll get you in on that. I don't think there's anything else. Yep, my sister's the organized one. I don't know if you guys can tell. I'm just kind of like, let's go camping. And she's like, okay, how? And I'm like, I don't know. So she is the expert at organization. So thank God for my sister. That's pretty much it. We've got a special event tonight, but I'm going to explain a little bit more about that. Right now, what I want to do is just lead right into worship. We're going to do 2 different songs together, and I'll introduce communion in the middle of it. But everybody, this is David Tennis. Is that how you say it? Still to this day. Okay.
Good job. I don't need.
Oh, I thought you were reaching for that.
I'm loud.
David's going to help lead some worship on the guitar. So I just want to pray before we get started. Father God, we just thank you so much for your goodness, Lord, for your nearness. Father, I just ask that you would come, Lord, that the worries of the week would just fall away from us, Lord, that we would just be able to fix our eyes on you. Lord, we know that where you are all good things. Father, all good things come from your hand. And Lord, I just ask that you would give us the grace to look at you, not for those good things, Lord, but for you yourself. Lord, for you are our greatest desire. You are everything that we desire, Lord. Right now, I just invite you to come, Father, that we would get to know you better and better. So, Father, thank you for being here. And Lord, I just pray we commit this time to you. In your precious name I pray. Amen.
Hi, guys. I know most of you don't know me. I used to go to young adults all the time, and now I'm old. Sort of. So, I am. But I'm David, and I like to sing, and I love God a lot. So, and I'll also be kind of hosting the special event tonight. So thank you for coming out. But let's just get into a posture where, whatever the Lord wants to say, we just have an open heart. If he says we should do something, we should do it. That we should know that he's far greater than us, and whatever he wills, whatever he desires, we should really lean into that and let him mold us and shape us, because he created us and he loves us.
Temple, make us holy like you are. You see a holy nation, a flock to consecrate, a chosen generation, a people called to pray. So help us, God, to please you where only you can see. For every moment matters in eternity. We are your people, and you are God, and we are your temple. Make us holy like you are. We are your children. You've set us apart, God, for your glory. people. Mark your people with your presence. Make us a place where you delight to dwell. And may we heed your hands' correction. Oh Lord, our shepherd, you do all things well. Your love as firm as it is tender. Your law is perfect and your judgment's true. And as we run to resurrender, you will restore and we return to you. You are restoring as we yield anew. And we are your people, and you are God. We are your temple. Make us holy like you are. We are your children. You set us apart. God, for your glory, make us holy like you are. Make us holy like you are. God, say if you're calling, we're coming. If you're calling, we're coming. Not walking, we're running. God, we need resurrender. So we resurrender. If you're calling, we're coming. Not walking, we're running. God, we need resurrender. So we resurrender. If you're calling, we're singing. Not walking. Oh, if you're calling, we're coming. We're not walking, we're running. God, we need resurrender. So we resurrender. If you're calling, we're coming. Not walking, we're running to you, Lord. God, we need resurrender. Reshape our hearts, Lord. We resurrender. Oh, reshape our hearts, Lord. Oh, would we bow before you, will, Lord? Whatever it is you want, your will be done, God. Sing, we are your people. We are your people. And you are God. We are your temple. Make us holy like you are. We are your children. You set us apart. God, for your glory, make us holy like you are. If you're calling, we're coming. Not walking, we're running. God, we need resurrender. So we resurrender. If you're calling, we're coming. Not walking, we're running. God, we need resurrender. So we resurrender. If you're calling, we're coming. Not walking, we're running. God, we need resurrender. So we resurrender. Oh, we resurrender. So we resurrender. God.
I want to read a couple passages together. We're going to take communion If you're a believer, we practice open communion. So if you believe in Jesus Christ, the elements are going to be right over here. But first, I just want to read a couple of passages. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I need this even more this week than normal. I mean, I always feel that. But this week, I'm just so aware of how much it's only Jesus in my life. That is the only thing. He is the only one that, yeah. So, just going to read out of Matthew 26 and then also Luke 4. So in Matthew 26, now on the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus saying, Where will you have us go to prepare for you to eat the Passover? And he said, Go into the city of a certain man and say to him, The teacher says, My time is at hand. I will eat the Passover at your house with my disciples. And the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. When it was evening, he was reclining at the table with the 12. And as they were eating, he said, Truly, I say to you, one of you will betray me. And they were very sorrowful and began to say to him, one after another, Is it I, Lord? And he said, It is he that has dipped his hand in the dish with me that will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him, but woe to the man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for him if that man had not been born. Judas, who would betray him, answered, Is it I, Rabbi? And he said to him, You have said so. And as they were eating, Jesus took the bread and he blessed it, and he broke it, and he gave it to his disciples. Take and eat, this is my body. And he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to him, saying, Drink of it, all of you, for this is my blood in the covenant, and it is poured out for the forgiveness of many sins. I tell you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine again until the day I drink it with you, new in my Father's kingdom. Now jumping over to Luke 4. And when he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as it was his custom, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day, and he stood up to read. And the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was given to him. He unrolled the scroll and found it the place where it is written, The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim the liberty to the captives and recovering of the sight of the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. And he rolled up the scroll and gave it back to the attendant, and he sat down, and all the eyes of the synagogue were fixed on him. Father God, I just come before you and I confess, Lord, that I feel like Judas a lot of times. Lord, I feel like so unworthy, but Lord, I thank you that that is what makes me worthy to take of the bread, Lord, because it's your free forgiveness. So Lord, I just cast my worries, my anxieties, my pain and suffering on you, Lord, because you are soft and gentle, Lord, and you came to save me. And that's what you said when you read Isaiah, Lord, that you were the one that was sent to free me. So Lord, I just, we dedicate this next song to you, Lord, and I just pray that you would come and speak to us of your loving forgiveness, of your kindness, of your compassion. Thank you for your forgiveness that we don't deserve. So yeah, there's red wine vinegar and bread over there, and you're welcome to take it just throughout this next song.
There is none like you, who can know my heart like you do. All creation sings your song. I will join with them, declaring your glory. unafraid. 'Cause every time we need you, we're met by love. We can lift our hands to heaven full of faith. 'Cause every time we worship, we see your face. We can run straight into your arms, unafraid. 'Cause every time we need you, we're met by love. We can lift our hands to heaven full of faith. 'Cause every time we worship, I see your face. We see your face. Oh, we see your face. Your face do we seek, Lord. There is none like you. Who can know my heart like you do, Lord? For all creation sing your song, and I will join with them, declaring your glory. Yours alone, there is none like you. Who can know my heart like you do, Lord? All creation sings your song. I will join with them, declaring your glory. Oh, we can run straight into your arms, unafraid. 'Cause every time we need you, we're met by love. Lift our hands to heaven full of faith. 'Cause every time we worship, we see your face. We see your face. We see your face. We see your face. Oh, we cry out, it's your face do we see. Oh, we cry out, your face do we see. Oh, we cry out, your face do we see. Lord, we cry out, your face we see. Oh, we seek your face. There is no one like you, Lord. You, Lord. There is no one like you, Lord. You, Lord. Sing it out. There is no one like you, Lord. There is no one like There is no one like you, Lord. You, Lord. There is no one like you, Lord. You, Lord. Sing, there is no one like you, Lord. You, Lord. There is no one like you, Lord. You, Lord. Just the voices. There is no one like you, Lord. You, Lord. There is no one like time, and there is no one like you, Lord, you, Lord, and there is no one like you, Lord, you, Lord.
Amen. Father God, we just thank you. Thank you for worship. Thank you for communion. Lord, we just ask that you would help us to worship you, the Creator, and not the creation, Lord. And thank you for your goodness towards us. In your precious name, I pray. Amen. Amen. Cool. We have a very special night tonight. We have, not only is David visiting us, but we've got Jackson in the back row back here. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're a CSU student? What are you studying? Nice. Dude, that's so cool. Dang. So we've got an interview style set up tonight. So if you're ready, we'll have you up here. I've got waters for you guys. No, you don't. Okay. Dave, I'll let you, when you're ready, introduce more of what's going on. But as we're going to go through this next half an hour or so, at least 45 minutes, so plan on an hour. What I want you guys to do is take really good notes and think of really good questions.
Yeah.
So I want 10 really good questions that take about an hour each to answer by the end of the night.
You're not leaving cold.
So this is going to be really interesting. I think this is going to be an incredible way of moving our hearts to what's going on in the world. This is something that I have a little bit of connection with, but I'd really want more. And so, yeah, just thank you guys. Thank you, Jackson, for being here. We're so honored and excited.
Yeah. Let's
give it up for Jackson.
Round of applause.
And I'll let you guys take it over.
Lions den here. Hey guys, I'm David. How are you guys? Jackson is going to be doing most of the talking tonight, so I'm going to get it out of my system now. But thank you so much for letting us do this. For those that don't know me, which is actually about half the room. No, okay, maybe a third of the room doesn't know me. But I'm David. I go here at Springs Church, and I work with an organization called Stories of Anti-Semitism. And what we're trying to do is bridge the gap between the Christian and the Jewish community. So Jackson here, he's of a different faith background. So he is Jewish, and how long have you lived in Colorado Springs your whole life, right?
Whole life, yeah.
Yeah, make sure the mic's close to your mouth, sorry. Yeah, whole life.
Yep.
Never left.
I was born here, so
Yeah.
never left.
You're a real native.
Yeah.
We know there's... How many of you were born in Colorado? Oh my gosh. Woo! Is it true that if you're not born here and you haven't, if you were born here and you haven't left, you're a native, but if you were born here and you have left, you're no longer a native? How does that work? That's what people are telling me. Listen, Jax has the mic. Jax, you got the final word.
I think if you leave, you kind of lose your status. I don't know. Like more than a year. More than a year. No.
College.
No.
Okay. Awesome. Well, on that note, I'm David, and I'm not a native, but yeah, what we're trying to do with Stories of Anti-Semitism is we're a really scrappy organization, and it was founded by Jeremy and Raquel Jacobs about 4 years ago, and it's kind of morphed, and since what happened on October 7th,
occurred, it's kind of changed even more to where we feel like we really are trying, like our main goal is to bridge a gap between the Christian and Jewish communities, so that for two reasons. Number one, so that Christians can kind of understand where Jewish people are coming from, what they're experiencing, because a lot of the time we may not know. How many of you in here, other than if you've met Jax tonight, know someone who is either ethnically or religiously Jewish? Anyone?
Dang,
Okay.
that's a lot. Okay.
That's a good number, dude. For like, what, 110,000
Yeah.
in Colorado? That's not bad.
I went to high school here, and so many people tell me that I'm the first Jew that they've ever met before. So that's cool. I'm glad you guys know other Jewish people.
Yeah, well, and it's a great number in here. That's great. But what we're finding with stories of anti-Semitism is actually there aren't many times where there's conversation between Christians and Jewish people. And obviously, I want to share a scripture verse here from Hosea to kind of set the tone. But we as Christians here in the room, we are taught and we are told that there's no greater love than laying down one's life for a friend. And Jesus talked over and over again about blessed are the poor and the brokenhearted and those who are suffering, right? That God is close to those who are suffering, and that we as Christians are to take part in God's plan of helping those that are in a state that's painful, they're struggling, they're marginalized, they're in rough shape. And historically, the Jewish people have undergone an immense amount of persecution, both from historically the Christian side. Actually, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's been a massive push for the past 2,000 years since the foundation of Christianity was laid, where even some very early church fathers like Chrysostom and I don't know if you guys know early church history, but there was a fun fact for you. Chrysostom, through many popes, and then we had the Crusades. There was just so much vitriol directed towards Jewish people by Christians. And of course, we can say, well, we don't believe that's what Jesus taught, and that's not what we represent, and that's great. But we need to be aware of this. We need to be aware of the fact that Martin Luther, at the end, wrote a book called The Jews and Their Lies, and Hitler, in World War II, sourced a lot of his theological material from Martin Luther's writings. So for all the good that Martin Luther did for the Reformation, he definitely didn't do good when it comes to that aspect. And it's been a repeating fact of history, and it's not just Christians. And I'm not saying this so we should feel unadulterated shame and go home crying because people that identified as followers of Jesus were very incredibly anti-Semitic over history. But we need to be aware of this. And that's what happened historically, and it's not just Christians. There are plenty of people groups. But what we're seeing now, and I think what's been highlighted, and this is something that you've been doing on CSU. We're going to get into his story, what he's been doing on CSU, but also what he's experiencing. What we're seeing now is, I think, this historical evil of anti-Semitism rearing its ugly head in the greatest way it has since World War II. And we as Christians, we come from a Judeo-Christian history, right? We come from that tradition. And we also have teachings where we are called to, I think you shared, bind up the brokenhearted. That scripture passage, right? We are called to bind up the brokenhearted. We are called, and I want to read Micah, get some Old Testament in there. Chapter 6, verse 8. This is just a really simple one, but this is the verse I want us to keep in our hearts as we're having this conversation. So it says, "He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you?" And so I believe he's the writer, Micah, here is talking to all those who believe in the Lord. "What does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God?" I personally believe there's a lot of ways that the idea of justice has been twisted in these days, but there's still a pure, undefiled concept of justice, and that justice is something that God stands for. That's what's right, that's what's righteous, and he's calling for us as Christians to take part in his plan to magnify what is righteous and magnify what is just in the world. And what's been happening, as you're going to learn, if you guys haven't heard much about what's going on with anti-Semitism recently, buckle up, because it's pretty crazy, and you've experienced it personally. But we need to realize what's actually going on in the world right now so that we can take action. That's really the second thing, is that we're here as Stories of Anti-Semitism in order to help young people, primarily, to realize that there are actually quite simple things that we can do that make a big impact. And might be some of you in here that are like, I want to go above and beyond simple. At the end of this night, you might be feeling in your heart, I want to do more than just that. What we're trying to do is to equip with information. We're trying to equip theologically, but ultimately just practically. Because what's going on in our community, there, like I said, there's 110,000 Jewish people in Colorado. That's like I think it's the second biggest population inland next to Chicago.
Yes.
Am I right about that? Yep. Yeah. Huge population here, and nearly everyone has probably experienced some form of anti-Semitism, and those that haven't, you can correct me if I'm wrong, maybe some of them are just a little afraid to demonstrate their Jewishness in public. Have you seen people like that?
Yes, very much so. My own sisters refuse to wear anything that signifies them as Jewish because they're just terrified to go outside.
And you'll understand why here soon. So I just wanted to set the stage for that. At the end of this evening, I am going to be a resource for you guys. Over this school year, we're going to have a lot of opportunities to get involved. But I just want you guys to hear. I want you to be able, us as Christians, to kind of step into Jax's shoes, because this is going to be foreign to pretty much all of us. Maybe some of us have experienced something similar, but I doubt it. And so we want to step into Jax's shoes and just listen to him tonight. So, Jax, thank you for being here. We're really blessed that you're here. Have you ever been to an event like this before?
I have not at all.
Never? Mm-mm. Have you had much dialogue with Christians?
Not a whole lot. More recently, these last few months after October 7th.
Wow.
But yeah.
Have you thought of why that is? Like, why there's not much dialogue? Or?
Well, I think for me personally, I share a sentiment that a sentiment that a lot of other Jewish people also share. I think we're a little nervous with coming into Christian spaces and sort of involving ourselves with Christian groups because of that history. It's kind of hard to know when you're in a safe space and in a spot that is going to love you for being Jewish instead of a spot that's going to hate you for being Jewish. And I think that fear just controls a lot of people. And that's what controlled me before October 7th. But after, I have met so many lovely Christian people who have offered so much support and who have been on my side the entire time. So yeah, it's definitely changed for me, and I hope it changes for a lot of other Jewish people too.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I guess I can pull this card because I am a follower of Jesus, but on behalf of those that really don't think that's right, I'm sorry that you've dealt with that, because that's not right. And we as Christians can say, hey, that's not what we believe, but okay, you're like, great, that's not what you believe, but like, you know what actually impacts me in real life? What you do, not just what you say you believe, and really what we do reflects what we believe. So I'm sorry that you've dealt with that. And I'm hopeful that we can really partner with the Jewish community, because our faith history is rooted in that. We know there's differences. We realize that. But we just want to be people that stand for what's just and what's right. And so the fact that you didn't experience that from people that claimed to follow our God I'm sorry. I really am. And I hope those aren't just empty words. So,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. But yeah, thank you for coming in. So let's just start out. Give these fine people a background to who you are, just over a couple minutes, okay? Who is
Sweet.
Jackson?
I'm Jackson or Jax. Both are fine. Don't stress about it. I grew up here in Colorado Springs. I went to Liberty High School. If any of you guys know where that is, yeah.
Any more Liberty people in the house? Raise your hand. Nathan.
That's okay. That's okay. I have 4 sisters. They're all lovely. I'm Iranian Jewish. So my grandparents immigrated here from Iran in the 70s after the revolution over there. They were expelled from the country for being Jewish. And they came here and found a great community in the South. And then my grandpa's military, so we ended up coming up here. But yeah, that's a brief little introduction to me. I go to CSU now. I study restoration ecology and ethnic studies. Yeah, I've sort of gotten myself involved in a lot of Jewish activism recently. That wasn't my plan for my college life, but that's kind of what has to happen with some of these events. So, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. So, you mentioned you're Iranian Jewish. I'm not gonna lie, when I started working with Jeremy, I felt woefully uneducated on some of the differences within the Jewish community. So can you just break down the differences of either the ethnic background or differences in religious point of view in the Jewish community?
Yeah, so that is a super complex thing, but I'll try and keep it simple. So it's easily divided into 3 groups. Ashkenazi is your European Jews. So after the Second Temple was destroyed in Israel about 2,000 years ago, all of the Jews were forcibly removed from Israel by the Roman army, and we were sent to several different places. So Ashkenazi Jews are the descendants that were taken to Europe, Sephardic Jews are the descendants that were taken to Spain, and Mizrahi Jews, which is what I am, are the descendants of those that were taken to the Middle East. So.
And when it comes to a Christian, if they meet someone that's Jewish, you can expect someone, you don't know essentially what you're going to get. There's a lot of differences in backgrounds. Well, what are some of the differences in the either the secular or religious affiliation as well, just so we can understand the terminology here?
Yeah, like in Ashkenazi, Sephardi?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of more cultural and ethnic than it is religious. We all speak different languages. My family spoke Judeo-Farsi, which is the language that's spoken in Iran, but combined with Hebrew. So that's what a lot of different groups speak, like Yiddish for Ashkenazi Jews is German combined with Hebrew. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of religious difference. We're all one family, one nation. So we all read from the same book. We all say the same prayers. I think it's very comparable to like Christians across the world. There's all these different differences, but at the end, like everyone's the same and like reads the same book and believes in the same God, and that's the same for us. So.
Jax, what in a few sentences, how would you describe who is Jewish, someone that's Jewish?
Oh, I actually took a class this semester with my rabbi that was all about that question, and it was 8 weeks long, and we didn't answer it. So
that's great. So what was the non-answer that you came up with? Was there anything?
It was, pretty much. Someone who is Jewish is someone who believes in God and follows the 600 commandments. You don't have to follow all of them, but you got to follow a few. It's actually a really difficult thing to define who is Jewish. My dad is the Jewish person in my family. My mom is Irish and Navajo, so not Jewish. And by a lot of standards in the Jewish community, I would not be considered as Jewish, and neither would my sisters. But I kind of looked out. My mom converted to Judaism right before I was born, so I'm considered Jewish under Jewish law. But the Jewish people consider that if you believe you are Jewish and you know you are Jewish, then you are Jewish. It's not something that we can define, it's something that you can define. We also don't do conversions. And part of that is because we believe that that's not something that we should define, that's something that you should define. So if you want to convert to Judaism, that's your decision, not ours. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let's move on to the question of anti-Semitism. I'm sure you've thought a lot about anti-Semitism recently as you've experienced it, but can you explain for all of us here, from your perspective, what anti-Semitism is?
So I actually did a lot of stuff on this last year. Anti-Semitism itself means anti, obviously, and then Semitism is the idea of a Semitic race, a Semitic people. So Semitic languages are Arabic and Hebrew, but under the Nazi regime, they classified Jews specifically as Semitic people and called us the Semitic race. So anti-Semitism was coined by Nazi Germany as a way to make discussing the removal of Jews from Europe more friendly for educational settings. So not a great history to the word, but that's kind of what we're stuck with. A lot of Jews prefer Jew hatred or Judenhass, which is just Jew hatred in German, as a better way of saying it that's more clear. But anti-Semitism means the same thing. And it manifests in a lot of different ways. It can be about someone's ethnic background, about someone's religious background, about someone's cultural background. So it doesn't matter if your great-great-grandfather is Jewish or if you converted and started practicing Judaism, you can still be targeted by anti-Semitism. And one thing that comes along with anti-Semitism is dog whistles, which is a way to make anti-Semitism more covert and more hidden. And that's why it's able to take hold in so many parts of our world today, because people just don't recognize it and don't recognize the different words and the different meanings of what stuff actually is anti-Semitic.
So you're saying there's a lot of kind of like covert stuff.
Yes.
Can you give a couple of examples of that?
Yeah, I'll give a few examples of stuff that have happened to me. So in high school, my sophomore year, I had just gotten a car. It was so cool. I was so excited. I was bringing my car around everywhere. And I come out of work, and someone had spray painted the numbers 88 on my car, which might not mean a whole lot to all of you, but 88, H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. HH means Hail Hitler. So having that spray painted on my car sucked. That was not cool. And I couldn't even report it to people because it's just the number 88. It doesn't mean anything to them in the same way that it means something to me. And when I was at college, I had a whiteboard on my door, like most people do. And I had 6MWE written on my door, which means 6 million wasn't enough. So 6 million was the number of Jews that were killed in the Holocaust. Yeah, and I couldn't even report that because there's no way that they could tell what that means. It's just a few letters and a number, so.
And that was here in Colorado?
Yep, that was at CSU, and then the spray painting thing was here in Colorado Springs.
Colorado Springs.
Yep.
So this isn't a far-off land?
No,
This is
no.
here? Yeah, that's terrible, man. And do you feel like it's been increasing recently?
Yes, very much so.
Why do you say that?
I think that people have I think that our news and our cultural systems, especially for younger people, have been hijacked in such a way that anti-Semitism is so easy to spread. And it's because of those dog whistles that some of these people doing these things don't even realize that they're being anti-Semitic. They are purely just trying to engage in what they think everyone else is doing without realizing that it's anti-Semitic behavior and that it's harmful.
So for myself and the people in the room, just break down the dog whistle part again. I want to make sure we understand what that analogy that you're using.
Yeah, so what do you mean specifically? I don't know how else to break it down.
Well, if I'm honest, are you just talking about something that's maybe not
totally noticed, but it is noticed by you.
Yeah.
Like the dog can hear a higher frequency, so to speak, and so you notice it. What these people are doing, you notice it, and it impacts you. But a lot of people might not notice it.
Yes.
Is that okay? Gotcha.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, I have not heard that analogy before.
Yeah.
So
It's also meant to be a way for them as an inner community to communicate with each other, so that other people don't know that they're Nazis or that they're anti-Semitic. But when other anti-Semites or other Nazis see the 88 or the 6 MWE, they will see that and know that that person believes the same things that they do. So.
thank you for clarifying. That was good. All right, so we're going to take questions at the end. So if you have a question, I'm going to have you guys write it down, and at the end, you can fire away, okay? So Jax was in speech and debate, okay? So he's quick on his feet, all right? All right, let's move on to Israel. So you're in America, you're Jewish, but there's a nation in the Middle East called Israel that is the only Jewish nation in the world. Can you break down for us what Israel is to you, what Israel is maybe to the average Jewish person, if it's different than for you? So let's start with those two things.
Yeah. So for me, Israel is home. It's where I'm from. I've never been there, but that doesn't matter for me. It still has this feeling and this emotion. And for Jewish people, we are one huge family. I will meet a Jewish person that I've never met before, and I will instantly know them. And we will instantly be friends just because we're Jewish, because we have that connection on so many different levels, and we just understand each other. And because of that, a nation full of Jews is a really big deal for a lot of us. That is our whole family right there. That is our extended family all living together in one spot, in the place that we have lived for thousands of years. I'm Native American on my mom's side, so indigeneity and where we're from means a lot to me. And being from Israel means a lot to me. My family is able to trace back our history through Iran to when we were removed from Israel 2,000 years ago, which is not something that a lot of Jewish people are able to do because of historical stuff. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Like legitimately look back through the genealogies.
Yep.
My
Yeah.
goodness. That's awesome, man. That is a fun fact I didn't know. Maybe someday I can learn about that. So, obviously, Israel really means. Do you think that's fairly representative of the average Jewish perspective?
I didn't think it was before I got to college. I thought that was kind of just a me thing, and that everyone else was happy living here in America or wherever else they were. But I got to like CSU, and I met so many other Jewish people, and they all told me the exact same thing. I've met people that have also never been to Israel, and they told me that they would literally give everything for Israel, and that it's their favorite place in the world. They've never been there. How can it be their favorite place? It's because it's where we're from. It's home. You don't have to have been there to know that it's home and that it's where your family is. So, yeah, I think that that's not covering all Jewish people. Some Jewish people do not feel that way and are actually very hateful against Israel. But I personally think that that's the wonderful thing about the Jewish people, is that we're able to have that difference in opinions, and yet I am still family with that person. Whether or not they disagree with me about Israel being our home and being the place that we belong, they are still my family. Family fight, I'm sure we all know that, and you don't agree with all of your cousins and your aunts and your uncles. I don't either, and I think that's beautiful, and I think that that should stay that way. I don't want to change anyone's opinion, I just want people to be able to understand mine. So, yeah.
And you're talking about opinions. There are a lot of opinions.
Yes.
And we're about to talk about a subject that is very polarizing. Okay, so as you guys are listening, you guys are coming, you might have some preconceived notions about what we're about to talk about. We're going to talk about October 7th. We're going to talk about Israel. We're going to talk about the Palestinians. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And so as we're talking, I just ask that you just listen and you just process it and realize that every narrative
that is being perpetrated, it impacts someone. Jax is someone that's been directly impacted by this narrative and by the reality over there. Okay, so you are entitled to have your perspective, but we're going to give him the floor to help us understand how does this really impact someone sitting in front of us. This isn't just an idea on Twitter anymore. He's sitting in front of us. So I want to lay that out. So Jax, I know this is going to be really hard for you, but first, in a broad way, can you just help us help us understand what happened on October 7th in general, and then we'll talk a little bit more about your personal experiences.
Yeah, so October 7th occurred during the Jewish holiday of, forgetting my Hebrew a little bit. It's the celebration of the Torah, HaTorah. And it's when, so every week we read one segment of the Torah, and that holiday, Simchat Torah, celebrates when we have made it all the way around the Torah. We have read the whole Torah, and we're going to start reading it again the next week after. And it's a huge celebration. Everyone brings the Torahs out of the synagogues. We're all dancing. In Israel, there is concerts. Everyone is celebrating. It is huge. And this is when a terrorist group from Palestine, known as Hamas, attacked Israel. And they attacked in the southern part of Israel in the Negev desert, where a festival was happening celebrating Simchat Torah. This is the Nova Music Festival, where a lot of people lost their lives. Hamas also continued to go into several houses around kibbutz in that area, which are Jewish communities and farms, and removed people from their homes and took many people hostage. So, yeah.
The number of total people, not just Israelis, was around 1,100, am I correct?
Correct.
So just so we are putting this in perspective, guys, most of us in here probably don't remember 9/11, but 9/11, there were around 3,000 people that died. When you compare that 3,000 people to the roughly 280 million, 300 million in the United States at the time, that ratio, if we compare that to the ratio of Israel, is how many people are in Israel? Like 8, 9 million, something like that?
Something like that. I think it just got to 10 maybe.
Yeah, maybe 10 million, right? And we're looking at that ratio, 1,100 people to 10 million versus 3,000 to 300 million. Guys, that's on a scale that's ridiculously higher than 9/11. And of course, 9/11 was horrific and terrible just as well. But this is just to put in perspective how much, there's rarely a person in Israel that probably doesn't know someone that.
Yeah, especially because of how close-knit we are as a people. I've seen a lot of statistics and a lot of news groups say that there isn't a single person in Israel that doesn't know someone that was killed or taken hostage on October 7th. So it has affected all of us. And it's affected Jewish people outside of Israel, because I have family that live there, and so do a lot of other Jewish people. And even if we don't have immediate family that lives there, that still hurts. That's our nation. That's our family being killed. Like, yeah, it's rough.
And I'm going to ask you to break down your personal experience now, and I know it's very close, and I know you shared your story a lot, but I'm guessing it never gets easier. Mm-hmm. But what was your personal experience, family members? What happened within your group of family and friends?
Yeah, so that day happened on Simchat Torah, and it happened on the Sabbath. And so on the Sabbath, a lot of Jews don't use electricity or anything like that. So we're not watching the news. We don't have our phones on. And when the Sabbath ended and I finally checked my phone, I had like 70 missed calls from everyone in my family. I had 2 cousins, Sarah and Esther, who were together at the Nova Music Festival, and they were not found. And they have still not been found. Their bodies have not been identified, and they are not thought to be one of the ones in hostage. So that was really rough. I was coming out of literally like the happiest holiday of the Jewish year and into just this absolute atrocity. And I had two cousins that I knew and loved very well and who had visited me several times that didn't make it, and I didn't even get, a goodbye or anything. And that was not easy, but I have been very comforted by the fact that doing events like these and speaking about them, and so in Judaism, we don't say rest in peace, we say blessed be their memory, so that you can always remember them and you should be sharing them so that other people can experience them. They may be gone, but that doesn't mean that they are forever gone, right? They live on in us. And that's what I try and do. I do a lot of my speaking events for my cousins and for everyone else because they can no longer speak. So I must raise my voice.
If you don't mind, would you mind sharing some of the best parts of your cousins?
Yeah. So they were huge partiers. The Nova Music Festival was a rave, so everyone was going crazy. My cousin Sarah used to be a swimmer, and she broke the record in Israel for longest swim in the Mediterranean. She made it all the way to Cyprus, if any of you guys know geography. But yeah, Esther, I don't know a whole lot about. She was very quiet. They were twins, so Sarah kind of had the bigger personality. Esther was a little bit more quiet, but they were huge partiers. I was able to go to a celebration for them in New York a few weeks ago with a bunch of my family. I wasn't able to go to their funeral in Israel, unfortunately, because of all of the events happening at that time. But I was able to go there, and my aunt told me a story of, so in Israel, in the south, there's this desert, the Negev desert, and it has, this is kind of gross. Do any of you guys know what camel spiders are? They're awful. They're the worst. They're these giant spider things that blend into the sand, and they like to crawl up people's legs. It's not cool. It's not cool. Apparently, Esther had a camel spider that got into her pants when she was 14, and she brought it all the way home back to northern Israel. And my grandmother had to beat the heck out of this camel spider with a broom. It was, yeah, so.
That's quite the story. I don't know how you not know there's a spider in your pants.
I don't know.
That's impressive. Hey, it's a great story. Man, thank you for sharing. I'm really thankful for that. I think that's beautiful that you guys have that idea of memory, keeping them going, right? The memory of them. So.
Yeah.
Well, so after this happened, obviously, it impacted you. You were at school, right?
Yes.
And you weren't with family. It was just you. Did you have you had your community, right? Or did you not really have a community yet?
So I did not really consider myself very Jewish. I grew up, my mom's Catholic, and my dad ended up converting with her after my sisters were born. And they raised a lot of my sisters Catholic. I was raised by my Jewish grandparents, so I had a little bit of Jewish influence growing up, but I never really felt comfortable calling myself Jewish or going to synagogue or wearing my yarmulke or anything like that. And honestly, I felt scared. My parents would tell me awful stories of stuff that happened to my dad when he was young, and my grandparents would tell me stuff that happened to them when they were in Iran, and I was just why would I want to show myself as Jewish if I'm just gonna get hated for it? But then October 7th happened, and I kind of realized that I don't really have a choice. I am Jewish, and I should be proud of that, and I should be wearing my Star of David, and I should be wearing my yarmulke, and I should be telling people that I'm Jewish. I don't have to follow every rule. I don't have to be perfect. I am Jewish. That's already a fact. And that kind of just solidified things for me. So I went and I talked to my rabbi, and I got a yarmulke. I started learning a bit of Hebrew, which is so difficult. And
can you read this?
I can't.
Okay. Neither can I.
That's good. That's good.
I did not make this, so I hope it says what I think it says. It's like a bad Chinese tattoo. It's like, it says chicken chow mein. I hope this is actually what it says in Hebrew. Okay, so yeah, you talked to your rabbi and you just kind of stepped into your Jewish identity.
Yeah, and they had my Jewish community at school had a memorial for everyone that was lost during October 7th. It was actually really beautiful. We all lit candles in the shape of a Star of David together on our campus plaza, and it was really beautiful. And I pretty much met everyone in the Jewish community at CSU at that memorial. We were pretty much all there. And that's just what really solidified it for me, that I would be Jewish for the rest of my life and that I would have these people forever. October 7th was the worst thing that has ever happened to me and my people, but I am super grateful that I've been given the chance to be proud of who I am and that I've been given the chance to speak out about who I am. So, yeah, I think that might answer your next question.
Yeah, well, I was actually going to ask, so you said it's the hardest thing that's ever happened to you, and you really have stepped into your Jewish identity, and you're beginning to understand it and take it for yourself. Then how does it make you feel when there are people out there saying October 7th didn't happen? Or it wasn't that bad, or it was justified? How does that make you feel? Because there are people out there that say that, by the way, guys. And it's not like a few, it's a lot. Mm-hmm. How does it make you feel?
I think the best way to describe it is just the levels of emotion that I feel. First, whenever I see anything like that, it's just immediate anger. And I really have to control myself. I've gotten myself into a lot of trouble trying to have conversations with people who believe stuff like that, because they'll just say something and I just lose all control of myself. And it's really difficult. But I have to remember that people are sometimes misguided and that sometimes people just absorb the wrong information or take things the wrong way, and that is not their fault. That is the fault of the environment that we're in and the culture that we're in, and it takes a lot of work to understand that, and I'm definitely still working on it, and I definitely still get angry, and I definitely still yell, but I think that that's okay. I think that expressing that emotion, especially around this topic, is really important. And I think that just understanding of it's not necessarily their fault that they believe that. That's just what they believe. And it's on them to change it. It's not on me. That has really helped me address those things. So unfortunately, what I do is kind of just ignore it now, honestly. I think that that's better for me and my mental health, is to just not absorb myself into that kind of conversation and that kind of conflict so that I don't risk saying things that I regret. So, yeah.
So from the last, what has it been, 9 months now?
It's been 9 months.
It's been a crazy 9 months around the world. Even in the United States, we've seen stuff happening on college campuses. Some stuff happened on CSU, right? Can you break down a little bit what happened on CSU in response to October 7th? And then also explain a little bit about what happened around the nation?
Yeah, so I'll explain what happened around other campuses first. A lot of people were very upset about Israel's response to October 7th. There are, I believe there were 250 hostages originally taken on October 7th.
Israeli hostages, or not, so Hamas took hostages.
Yes, yeah. Hamas took hostages from Israel, and Israel started a military campaign to retrieve those hostages and to remove Hamas as a terrorist group in Palestine. And the way that this has been done has really frustrated a lot of people. And a lot of people very strongly and very firmly believe that Israel is not respecting Palestinian life and that Israel isn't doing this to remove Hamas or to get the hostages back. They're doing this simply to kill Palestinians. And I can't say if that's true 100%. I'm not the Israeli government. But I would really like to believe that that's not true, and I have a lot of evidence that says for me that that's not true. But a lot of people were very angered by this, and so this brought a lot of people to protest, and these protests started to escalate into encampments and into the gathering of people on campuses. And these encampments are really dangerous for Jewish students. They exclude Jewish students. They disrupt classes. Like for me, the main protest on CSU was started happening during our finals week, which was awful. All of my classes were right by the plaza, and all I could hear was them screaming while I'm taking my chemistry test, and I couldn't focus on anything. And yeah, so for CSU, it was not as bad. We didn't have as large of encampments as like Columbia or NYU did, but we did have a daily encampment. Our campus has a rule that you are not allowed to camp on the grounds from the hours of like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So during night, you can't do it. And thankfully, our protesters on campus respected that. So they were there from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the dot every day, and would leave as soon as their time was up, and then would come back right in the morning, which I actually really appreciated, and I know that a lot of other Jewish students really appreciated, because it made us realize that they were like trying to keep us safer on campus and trying to respect us. They might not have been doing it the way that we wanted or the best way, but they were doing it. So I'm really grateful to CSU for how they handled that situation and for how we were able to express our opinions. Every day, me and a bunch of other students would gather on the same plaza that they gathered, and on the other side, we would just hold our Israeli flags. We would wrap tefillin, which is a service that Jewish men do in the morning. We just wrap to remind ourselves that God is there and to remind us that our hands are tools for God to use and not tools for us to use. And we were able to just express that, and so were they. So I'm really proud that our campus was able to have that like level of free speech that I feel a lot of other campuses weren't able to get to. But yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like, and I've known this from my personal experience because I got to go to Columbia University. Did anyone hear about what happened at Columbia University in New York City? Okay, a couple people are nodding their heads. Long story short, there were these protests, but they were on a scale unseen at CSU and a lot of other campuses. And myself, Jeremy, and a couple other guys went to New York, and we got into the main quad area. It was really cool. We didn't actually have media passes, and they were supposed to only let media in, but somehow we still got in. I thought that was a really cool story. And we got into this quad, and it opens up, and it's this massive quad. And you walk in, and you're just hearing these chants, and there's all these students. Most of the students are like, I don't like this. I just kind of am just watching what's going on. But you go around this quad, and it's like 800 students with signs yelling, walking in a circle, and you go up these stairs, and there's like 5 Jewish students left, because the rabbi said it's not safe here. And the rabbi said it wasn't safe there for many reasons. I interviewed one guy, his name was David. He said, last week, my buddy had a brick thrown at his head. We try to go into these tent encampments. They say, their first question they ask is, are you a Zionist? And they're like, well, what is that? Okay, yeah, I mean, and then they don't even let you have a nuanced conversation, because there's actually there's a little bit of nuance there. And they're like, you're not allowed in. And they created a Zionist-free zone. And there are things being said, and a couple I think of are globalize the Intifada, things like that. Maybe do you have a perspective on helping us understand how some of these things that are said they really are anti-Semitic, even if most of the people are ignorant of that?
Yeah, so I can go through like a few of the big ones. The first one that I even had personally written on my whiteboard on my door was from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And that river and that sea is the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, which are the two borders of Israel. And so for a lot of Jewish people, that feels very aggressive and very threatening, that from the entirety of Israel, there will be no Israel. There will be no Jews. That is how a lot of us interpret and feel that message. And I firmly believe that it's a very dangerous idea, and I know a lot of other Jewish people do too. And another big one is globalized intifada. Intifada is a Arabic word that means uprising, and it's supposed to refer to revolutions and stuff like that. But oh yes, yeah. So those little blue spots that you guys see on the side next to Jordan. Oh, thank you.
I don't know if it'll show up on the thing, but
Let's see.
sorry. No, well, okay.
It's okay. Yep, right there is where the river is, and then the Mediterranean Sea is right on the other side.
And that tan, that's Israel, right?
Yes, yeah.
And so from the river, Jordan River, to the sea, that's literally all of Israel.
Yep.
Yep. That's the entirety. And so when people are saying that, you're saying they don't want Israel anymore
Yes.
to be a thing. And Israel originally was, can you explain the idea of Zionism and what Israel's supposed to be for Jews?
So Zionism itself means Zion is one of the many words that we refer to Israel as. So Israel itself refers to the people more than the land. Zion refers to the religious part of the land, and then Judah is the land itself. So that's kind of a brief idea of the different terms that we have. But that's why Israel was called Israel, is because it was supposed to be a land for all Jewish people to be able to live together.
And not just Jewish people, right?
Correct. A lot of the original Zionists that helped Israel be formed were Christian, and a lot of them were Muslim. Israel has always been about interfaith. That is where all three of our religions are conjoined and have lived, and for Judaism and Christianity were born. So Israel is important to all three of us, and the Jewish people have always wanted to share the land of Israel. And we have lived there continuously for the last 15,000 years. And Israel was removed as a country by the Romans about 2,000 years ago. It was overtaken, and almost all Jews were displaced. But a few stayed there and were able to live there in harmony with the Muslim and the Christian populations there. In the 1800s, a lot of Jewish people started feeling the pressure from around the world, that we were not wanted in the countries that we lived in, and we were starting to be forced out. And so a lot of us were looking for a different home. For one of my friends' families, they were from Italy. They were Italian Jews. And in the 1800s, Italy started being not great to its Jewish population. And so they fled to Germany. And then in the 1900s, World War II happened. And they were again forced out. And now their only options in the entire world that they could go to was Israel. America was not allowing Jewish refugees into the country. Neither was the UK. A lot of people were denied access to countries. My family itself was originally denied access to the United States. We were told that we were a threat to the country itself. And I think that Israel serves a great purpose for a lot of Jewish people as a realm of safety. And it is like that for a lot of different people. For queer people in the Middle East, Israel is a hot spot. It is the only country that is okay with that. It's the only country where the death penalty is not used on gay people. So yeah, Israel is a hotspot for safety for a lot of people, There are 2 million Arab Israelis, 2 million Muslim Israelis who serve in the IDF and the Israeli military, and who love Israel just as much as I do, because it served as a home for them when their families were kicked out of Jordan and Syria and Lebanon for being against their political views. They found Israel and were safe there. And that is what Israel has been, and that's what Israel will continue to be for people, a safe place.
Thanks, that's really good. So I'm going to make a statement, and you can tell me if you disagree with it, and I want your perspective on it. But it seems like, especially recently, 80 years ago, we had the worst example of Jew hatred in history with the Holocaust. 6 million Jewish people died in that. That was almost half the population of the world. Okay, we're starting to see rhetoric and actions that resemble, and I'm not trying to be all fear-mongering or anything. I do think there's an opportunity for change, and I think that's what we're going to touch at the end here. How we, as followers of Jesus, can be part of resisting a very, very evil movement in society. But would you say that pretty soon here, or even right now, that Israel and the Jewish people are under existential threat?
I would hope not. I think that a lot of the signs are pointing that way. And I think that it's like exemplified on college campuses. I think that's where a lot of stuff happens first, and that's even the case for Germany. Before the Holocaust started happening, they told Jewish people that we were not allowed to get degrees from German schools. And then they removed all Jewish people from universities. And now we are seeing a similar thing where Jewish people are being told that they cannot be on campus and that if they don't feel safe, they should leave. And that is a pretty direct statement from a lot of university presidents. Harvard and Columbia, the presidents themselves said that they will not protect Jewish students on their campus, that is not their responsibility. And I think that is terrifying. And if I can't feel safe on my campus, then I won't feel safe in my town, in my state, in my country, and that is not great. But I will say, on the sort of bright side of stuff, this hatred has also pushed a lot of Jewish people to return to Israel. For a lot of people, we've realized that, unfortunately, right now, with the way the world is, the only place we can be safe is Israel. And I have a lot of friends. I had 5 people in my grade for high school that were all Jewish. They all made Aliyah. It's the return to Israel, and are now citizens there and now live there. And a few of them are planning to join the IDF and serve in the military. And that is the same for a lot of Jewish people. I even considered myself that I didn't want to stay here in Colorado, that I didn't want to stay here in the US, that I was too scared and I felt too unsafe, that I needed to go to Israel. But then I remembered that CSU is the only place that offers my degree, so I'm gonna stay there for a little bit. But yeah, it's terrifying, and I hope that things are able to calm down and that people aren't going to be as aggressive and things aren't going to be as scary for Jewish people. But yeah.
So you're not willing to say, oh yeah, it's definitely, but you're like, there's some signs, you know? Yeah, and I just want to make a comment on that as believers. Okay, I love, who here has read The Hiding Place, Corrie ten Boom? Okay, who here has heard of Dietrich Bonhoeffer? Okay, we love these stories. I love these stories is because I think these stories really do encapsulate one of the main features of our faith, which is we're to give ourselves, for those that need it, those that are suffering, right? That's what we see Jesus doing for us on the cross. And we're supposed to represent that. We're supposed to replicate that. And so we love stories like the Ten Booms, and we love stories like Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And Le Chambon was a French town that housed hundreds of Jewish people during the Holocaust. But I want us to keep something in mind. The statistic during World War II, where there were about 300 million Christians in Europe at the time, okay? The Holocaust Museum, over time, has done a study, and they found 27,000 examples of those that have that housed someone that was Jewish or did something sacrificially for someone that was Jewish. Not all of those were Christian. Okay, I don't know the exact amount, but let's just say 3/4 of those are Christian. Let's say 20,000. That's 20,000 examples of Christian out of 300 million in Europe. A lot of us would like to say, yeah, if something terrible happened, I'm going to stand and fight. But something that I heard just recently and is super important for me, even though I work with this organization, is what we're doing right now reflects what we will do in the future. Our heart and our mindset towards issues like this right now is reflecting what we're probably going to, how we're going to react to these things in the future. I'm not saying everyone needs to be a Corrie ten Boom. I'm not saying everyone needs to be an activist or anything like that, or even do something like I'm doing. But we should pray and we should ask ourselves, is there something that I, as a follower of Jesus, can do to stand against something that is just clearly evil? It's clearly evil, okay? And I want to make something clear. We're all here in our group, we're about all people, right? All countries, all ethnic groups. We love everyone. That's clearly a feature of our group. Nate has done a phenomenal job at making that abundantly clear. And so I am not calling for us to love a group of people and to serve a group of people and then begin to hate another group of people. You're presented with that. You have one choice here. You either love the Palestinians or love the Jewish people. And it's like, well, it's not actually that simple. And you guys are here in Colorado right now. If there were opportunities for us to serve Palestinian people that were suffering, it would be in accordance to what we believe to do that as well. What we're seeing, though, right now in our nation and in our neck of the woods is a very timely thing that we as believers can be doing, is serving this particular group of people, the Jewish people, because it really is a dire moment for the Jewish people. And the Jewish people are strong. They're a wonderful, amazing people. I've gotten to meet so many of them. They're phenomenal, and they're hilarious, and they're great. So I'm not saying, oh, look at these weak, poor, like Jax. Did you study any martial arts or anything like that?
I did rugby, but I don't think that
so
counts.
you can knock someone out, right? But that doesn't, right? And so I'm not calling the Jewish people weak, but I am saying this is an opportunity in the time of need for us as believers to do something that's in accordance with our faith and follow the example of Christ and give ourselves sacrificially in some way, even if it's just in prayer or with our time. We need to be doing something like that. So at the end, I'm going to be giving us some options and just some things for you guys to think about. But I want to ask this one last question, then we'll go into Q&A. I know we're going long. Sorry, Nate. We always go long. It's like, we'll be done at 8:30. It's like 9:15. Don't worry. We're hopefully not going to go that late. And you guys are free to leave whenever. But what was the response on camp? Did you see any Christian groups or individuals do anything on campus in response to October 7th?
Yes, I've seen a ton. I kind of thought that Jewish people weren't loved on campus by everyone, and that was kind of my thought coming into school and going through October 7th. But then a few months in about December of last year, I met a few students who just came out and stood with us while we held up Israeli flags. me and a few other Jewish students were praying, and they were just standing with us, standing in solidarity with us. And I was able to have a conversation with them, and they were talking about how they're Christian, and they are just here to show that they support me and that they support my family, and that they may not understand fully what I believe, they might not fully understand what it feels like, what I'm going through, but that they are here for me. And that was really incredible. I grew up in a sort of Christian, sort of Jewish family, and I didn't have a great relationship with Christianity and with church and with anything like that, and I think that impacted how I felt about people that were Christian and about people who did go to church. But that's all sort of been shifted and changed for me in the last few months, and I have met so many incredible people. I met a girl at a speaking event that I went to a few weeks ago with David, who talked about how she learned about the Holocaust and about how Christian people in Europe didn't do very much, if anything. And she said that she was ashamed and that she will not let her kids know that she did nothing when this happened. And I thought that was really powerful. And I think that that is something that we should all strive for, to be able to at least say we did something. You don't have to go to a protest. You don't have to buy an Israeli flag. You don't have to do any of that. Just by talking to the Jewish people that apparently all of you know, and
This is great. Our job's done.
and just saying that you love them and support them, I know that that means a lot. For a lot of Jewish people, especially here in Colorado, because our population is very dispersed, we feel alone. We feel like no one has our back. And so just by letting those people that you guys do know that you are there for them for whatever they need, that will be incredible. So, yeah.
You answered my next question. I was going to ask, what can Christians do? That's really good. Jax, is there anything else you want to say that you didn't get to say to our captive audience here?
Ooh, there is one thing that you mentioned about how people simplify this whole thing, and they think that when I say that I love Israel, that means that I hate Palestine. That is not true. I love Palestinians, and I love Muslims, and I love Arabs. They are my cousins. My family's from Iran, a majority Muslim country. I know a lot of stuff about Islam and about all of that culture, and it's beautiful. And it's really just in the last few years been hijacked by people who very strongly believe in just the wrong stuff. And that is what I hate. I hate that terror. I hate that fear that they install. I do not hate the innocent people that are being affected by this conflict. Just the same that my cousins have been affected and that I have been affected. We are no different. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really good. That's really good because I've, encountered the same thing as I've started working with stories of anti-Semitism. I didn't know anything. And guys, look, I work with the organization, and I still feel like I don't know a whole lot, but I do know a few things, and I know a few things that are in Scripture about what's right and what's wrong, and that's kind of what I'm trying to be up here and represent. And what us as believers, we don't have to have all the answers, but we can still do something when we know this is clearly not right. So, Jax, thank you for chatting. I want to move into a time of questions. If I feel, I'm just going to put this out there, I think there's a lot of times questions can get way off base, so if I feel like the question is just it's not pertinent to our topic, I'll say thank you, we can talk about it another time. But I want to try and stick within the conversation that we had here. So,
Not to scare you guys. I want there to be a variety of questions, but I put that preface because sometimes it's like, well, what do you think about Netanyahu? And you're like, oh, we're not going to talk politics right now. We're going to talk about how this is impacting Jewish lives. So, with that, are there any questions? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So first thing is that I definitely agree with you, but I want to be careful about the more than. I think that persecution sucks, no matter how much you've been persecuted. So I would never refer to the Jewish people as like the most persecuted, because I am equal to everyone else, and my pain, like our pain, shouldn't be ranked, and we shouldn't be going through this whole oppression Olympics. But I do think that the main thing is that we're just used as scapegoats. When things get rough and things get bad, it is really easy to just blame it on the Jews. And that is like just what people are doing, and that's what we're seeing now. Like, what is happening in Palestine is awful, and people are really angry about it, but they don't know where to place that anger, so they place it on me, and they place it on my sisters and on my friends. And I think that that is just how it's been for so many years, and I don't think that anti-Semitism will ever die, unfortunately. But I think that the Jewish people have just always been there and have always been an easy way to make situations go away. You just blame it on the Jews and then it's done. And I think that that is the one thing that we need to change, is realizing that like the solution to stuff and the causes of problems may not be what we need to worry about. We should be focusing on the solution and not worrying about the cause. We should be working together to figure out a solution to the war in Israel and in Palestine, not arguing over who started it or if the Jewish people even belong there or any of this, right? So, yeah.
You did do speech and debate. You're very good at this. I like this. All right, you had a question? Yeah, I have not read the book. I just want you to know that. Jeremy Jacobs, the founder of our organization, has and knows the guy. So if it's about the book, I'm sorry, I don't know about the book. It applies to you guys too. Okay. That is a very good question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm sure I can get you his business card, because I don't. But yeah,
Well,
that's a great question.
the first thing that I want to say is, if you want to talk about the criticism of Israel, you should talk to a Jew. We criticize Israel more than anyone else.
I noticed that. When I've been working, I'm like, oh man, are the Jews Zionists? Like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But no, you're right.
Yeah.
Because you guys are thoughtful, and like you're like, I'm not gonna just take this whole pill. I'm gonna think about it.
Well, so unfortunately, it's not being covered by the news a whole lot, but in Israel right now, there are protests against what is happening in Gaza, done by Jews and by Israelis, and that is honestly what I think is the beautiful thing of Israel, is that you are able to criticize it. Now, when that comes to being anti-Semitic and that like line, and when it comes to being pro-Hamas, I think that that is very difficult to define, and I think that oftentimes it comes down to intent, and what that person is intending with that message and with that propaganda. But that's kind of a hard question to answer, but yeah. Yeah, not really. I'm not on any social media or anything, so I don't know a whole lot of like content creators or anything.
I have
but-
one. Have you heard of Rudy Rockman?
I have not.
Okay, Rudy served in the IDF, and he's
Okay.
this is what he does.
Dang.
So Rudy Rockman's pretty good. That's Rochman. That's his last name. Trying to think of others. On X, there's so many everywhere. The Jewish people are really smart, and they're really good at communicating their opinions, and it's awesome. And so you'll find people out there, but so Rudy is the one that I think of right now, though. Have you heard of the 3 Ds of anti-Semitism from Natan Sharansky? Never.
I have not, no.
Okay. So I'm going to say this, and that doesn't mean he believes this, but the U.S. government holds to a 3 Ds of anti-Semitism perspective, just so you guys know. When does something become anti-Semitism? It's when and mostly this is surrounding criticism of Israel, the nation, and the Jewish people. So when you delegitimize, when you demonetize, and you have double standards, those are the 3 Ds. So you're delegitimizing the country as a whole. You're demonetizing. So all this is it called BDS?
Yes.
The sanctions that school a lot of these activists are asking for people to. For schools to hey, if you have investments in Israeli companies, take those away because we're trying. So that's what, according to the U.S. government's ascription, that's anti-Semitic. Technically, now we can have a conversation about where you should be putting your money, but and the third one is double standards. If you hold Israel to a standard that you're not holding another country to that standard, you're being anti-Semitic. So that's what the U.S. government describes, but it's far more nuanced than that even. But it's the best way they can explain it.
Yeah, I actually like that definition a lot. That's really
look
good.
into Sharansky. He's really good. Yeah, he's
Okay.
thought a lot about this.
Dang.
All right, any other questions?
Yeah, I think so. So one thing that's important to understand when talking about the Israeli government is that it doesn't work the same as it does here. So here you vote for a person. In Israel, you vote for parties. And then once those parties have been elected, then they choose a person. So we have never, the Israeli people have never chosen a president or a prime minister before. They've chosen a party to represent them, and that party chooses people. So that's where some issues can come in when it comes to misrepresentation of the Israeli people and when it comes to abuse of power in the Israeli government. One thing to understand is that Israel's young. Israel was created in 1948 as a state and became a nation. And so it's still learning. She's still figuring things out, working out how government works. Things are changing. In the 60s and the 70s, when my grandparents would have gone to Israel before coming to the US, Mizrahi Jews and Middle Eastern Jews were considered second class. And there were even cases of the Israeli government removing the reproductive organs of Jewish women, of Middle Eastern Jewish women, and Ethiopian Jewish women. And that's awful, and I can never forgive that, but countries make mistakes. Nothing can be perfect. But on the side of the brotherhood comment about Israel, yeah, I think so for sure. It is a family there. There's very little conflict within Israel when it comes between people. It's not the same here, where it's very divisive between parties and between different political beliefs. In Israel, it's honestly more about the different scales of religion, but that's a different topic. So yeah. Yeah, of course.
Good question. Nate. Wow.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, so I grew up keeping Shabbat with my grandparents, and I hated it. It was the worst, because you're not supposed to do any work or use electricity. There's a whole bunch of rules that you have to follow, and I always thought that it was like the least fun, because I would just sit around the table with my grandparents and we'd sing songs, and they'd cover up the TVs, and like, I wasn't able to do anything that I thought was cool. But as I've sort of grown up, and especially after October 7th, I actually was able to do a Shabbat service with my rabbi in his house. And it just reminded me that, so we have the saying in Judaism that you do not keep Shabbat, Shabbat keeps you. And it's really a way of resetting yourself. You're not removing yourself from all of these distractions. You're removing these distractions from you. You're having just a moment to be able to be truly yourself, just for a quick 25-hour period. And you're supposed to just think. You're supposed to read. You're supposed to learn. Instead of doing anything that's taxing, and especially being a college student, keeping Shabbat this last year has been so incredible. I have slept more than I think I have ever before, and I've been able to like do some readings for my classes that I definitely would have skipped if it wasn't for Shabbat. So yeah, it was super incredible to be able to like, I kind of had to relearn everything, because I stopped keeping Shabbat throughout high school. I don't know. I was having like a rebellious era with Judaism.
We all do.
Yeah. So, but now I keep Shabbat, and I keep it very proudly. Sometimes I'm on my phone during it, but like that's okay. It's not about being perfect. It's about just having a few moments. Like my rabbi told me that even if you, for 30 minutes on Shabbat, just think, that counts. That counts as keeping Shabbat. So yeah, it's also, for me, it's about community, because you're supposed to do Shabbat with your family, but when you're in college, you kind of don't really have a family to do Shabbat with. So instead, you go and you do it with a bunch of other students all together, and that's really incredible. I don't share. I'm the only Jewish person in my major, so I don't like interact with a lot of my Jewish friends on a day-to-day basis. So every week I get to see them at Shabbat, and we get to have dinner together, and then we get to all walk home together, and yeah, it's just really beautiful. So it's definitely changed my life, and I can't wait for it to keep changing my life. So yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up, Nate, because I have a question for everyone in the room. If we're, us as Stories of Anti-Semitism, we're trying to think of ways that we can create more spaces where Christians and Jewish people can come together. If we had a Jewish-led Shabbat dinner, how many people would be interested in coming to something like that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, come on. That's like 15. Dude.
The food's great too.
The
food.
Well, and I think it's something, it's a good practice. I'm glad Nate brought that up. So we'll keep that in mind. I am pushing to have that inter-church and interfaith Shabbat dinner. So, all right, are there any other questions up front here?
So just to grasp more understanding of like your faith and everything, what do you think are the most crucial differences between a Jew and a Christian? Because they seem very similar in reference.
Yeah, so I want to preface that we believe in the same God. It's the same idea. We just kind of argue about the details a little bit, I think it mainly comes down to the commandments. I follow all 651 commandments. Almost all, I try. I'm not perfect. I think I'm wearing mixed linens right now, which is technically a sin. But I think it just comes down to that. I think it just comes down to that like slight difference of how you like worship and how you pray and how you feel. But even coming here today, I noticed a lot of similarities that I didn't notice before. In Judaism, when we pray, we do this thing called davening, which is where you move to be able to let God come through you and show you what to pray for. You guys were pretty much davening during your worship, which was actually really cool. And then we Jews love bread. Everything's about bread. Every holiday is about baking bread. On the Sabbath, we break bread with each other to like show that we care, and that's what you guys do too. So there's a lot of similarities. We just argue about the details a little bit, and I think that's okay. I think that's what makes us like unique and special. But yeah, I hope that answered your question a little bit.
Awesome. I saw back there you had a question. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Can you just say the question again? I didn't hear her.
Yeah, if like I feel that there are spaces on my campus for Palestinians and Jews to like be together.
Gotcha.
So I'm Middle Eastern. I'm Iranian Jewish, and I go to a club at my school called SWANA, Southwest Asian North African. It's super cool. We always have good food. But after October 7th, I started feeling very not comfortable in that space, because it was constantly about like the protests, and it was constantly about what's happening over there, and it was about how my people, my family, are awful and are the worst. And I don't think that's a cool way to put it, and I think that that is like what it comes down to. And I don't think that there are spaces for not even just Palestinian Jewish students, but Middle Eastern, Muslim, and students to be with Jewish students. There's just not. And I don't think that's necessarily because of the students themselves. I think it's because of these structures that we have in place in our society and in our culture that are supposed to keep us divided, and are supposed to keep us angry at each other. But we shouldn't be angry. The Palestinian people on my campus are not responsible for killing my cousins, and I am not responsible for the death of their families. And I think that that is difficult to understand, and it's very emotion heavy. So I unfortunately don't know if there will be a time soon that we get that together, but I'd like to. That'd be really cool. So yeah.
That's good. All right, I have time for, let's say, 2 more questions, okay? You in the front here.
How do you think celebrities and influential people showing anti-Semitism affects how others' perspectives?
Yes. Wow, that's a good question.
We got good ones tonight.
So I think that that comes down to the like whole culture thing that I've been bringing up, of how people aren't necessarily even realizing that they're being anti-Semitic. They're just doing, like, I don't want to use the word trendy, but I don't think there's like really a better way to say it. They're just doing what's trendy and what's popular right now. And so I think that it is really dangerous when celebrities share stuff that they don't know about. I would appreciate if they just did a little bit more education and then shared stuff. I think that that would like cure a lot of problems, but I unfortunately don't think that'll happen anytime soon. But I don't think there's any issue in sharing Palestinian activism. I think that's really important. People should be aware of what is happening, and we should be fighting for an end to the war in Gaza, but we should also be fighting for the release of the hostages and for the end of Hamas. And I think that those 3 things can all go together. I don't think that they're separate ideas. And I think that just like the main thing that us, especially as young people, need to be realizing is that everything we see is not necessarily true. We have to be educating ourselves. And that even goes to me. Stuff that I see from my Jewish friends, I still have to fact check. And like, not everything that I see from Israel is going to be true. And I have to understand that. And I have to understand that there is flaws in Israel as a country. And yeah.
I'll just ask a quick question on top of that, and then I can take one more question. But you'd mentioned information. What are some ways people can find trustworthy information?
Yeah, so the first thing is that I think books are wonderful. That's where I get a lot of my information. It's very hard to spread misinformation through books, so that's a really great way to know that that information is at least more trustworthy than the stuff you find online. I have a whole list of books. If anyone wants it, I can totally share some. And then the other thing is just going to specifically Jewish and Palestinian people. The articles that they write, the videos that they make, they are going to be the closest experts that you get on stuff. And so I think that that's like the most important people that you want to be getting your information from. There's still misinformation from Jewish and Palestinian people, so it's not always trustworthy, but it's going to be more trustworthy than some random American lady talking about Gaza and Israel, so yeah.
Awesome. All right, one more question.
I have not.
Say, what is it called? No. Huh. Okay, I have not heard of it either. Interesting. Well, thank you for letting us know about it. Is there anything about it that we should know about, or? Oh. Is it a book? Oh, interesting. Okay. So they talk about like history and kind of setting some facts straight and the roots and every. Nice. Gotcha. Okay, so that's your background. That's cool, dude. Maybe we can talk after and I can learn a bit more.
Well, on that real quickly, a question that I get very often from people is what they can wear to show their support for Israel. I would say try and maybe stay away from just Stars of David. I think that gets a little close to like the cultural appropriation kind of side of things. But like, there are tons of stuff with Israeli flags. That's always good. I found a sweatshirt the other day that I thought was hilarious, and one of you should totally get it and wear it. It's called I Have Jewish Friends and I Love Them.
Dude, I like that.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
I love that.
So hopefully I will see people walking around Colorado Springs wearing I Love My Jewish Friends sweatshirts. So
That's
I'm
so
watching,
good.
I'm watching.
And I felt so bad. I was trying to bring them tonight, but I couldn't get them. But we have some shirts. Jordan here helped me design them a little bit. And they say anti-Semitism sucks on them. And so we're going to start to pump those out. And so hopefully if I come back, I can bring those. So yeah. Awesome, everyone. Nate, I want to... Oh, cool. Yeah, I have one last thing to say, but why don't you say what... Okay, I'll say something and then I'll finish. Well, okay, so I just want to bring this all in. So this is definitely not a normal night, right? Normally we talk about many other things. We talk a lot of stuff about the New Testament and our faith, Christ. We have a lot of worship, a lot of prayer. This is different, and it's on purpose because no one's doing this, okay? The whole purpose of this, I want to bring this back in, is that we that say that we follow Jesus, we have an opportunity today to back that profession of faith up with action. And this isn't something I want to guilt anyone into. This is just a call for you guys to ask God and pray, how can I be involved? Is this something that I want to be even more involved than just go to 1 or 2 events? Just pray about it and ask God about that. So I want to offer a couple of opportunities for you guys. We are developing that Shabbat dinner, okay? So I'm going to get Nate that information as soon as we have that up and running. So that's not set in stone yet, but I'm hoping it's going to get worked out in the next month. We do outreaches on campuses. So is there anyone in here that's a college student or going into college in next semester? Please raise your hands. I need numbers. We have a few. Okay. What school are you going to? What school are you going to? What school are you going to? Say that again. Oh, Pikes Peak State College. Lovely. Someone else had a hand up over here. Pikes Peak. Pikes Peak. Maybe we'll have to do something at Pikes Peak. That'd be interesting. I never thought about Pikes Peak State College. We do outreaches at UCCS, and we do outreaches at Colorado College. We also do outreaches up in at DU, at Boulder, CSU. That's where we got to hang out with this guy. We met at, what was it? It was at the We Won't Be Silent event, right? We had an event in Fort Collins called We Won't Be Silent, where we got Christian and Jewish people in the same room in the audience and multi-faith speakers. Each speaker had one faith, but we had the Jewish and the Christian people on stage, and it was just a really awesome time for us as Christians to help the Jewish community know, like, we're not going to be silent. This is one of those shirts here. We have events like that we have coming up over the next 6 to 12 months, but the outreaches and the Shabbat dinner are probably going to be the 2 things that you can really plug into. If you want to receive updates or anything like that, you can talk to me, and I'd love to give that out, get you guys on our updates so you can stay up to date on some other things. The third thing, this is super important. We believe that prayer works, and so we have a meeting where we're praying for Israel and we're praying for Jewish people here at Springs Church starting up in the school year. So it's going to be Wednesday mornings. And so we couldn't give you guys that information as well because I think it's just really important that we pray for the conflict in Israel to be done in the safety of our neighbors here in Colorado. So last thing, I have free books over there. Oh, was that Max, right? Is that his name? Max was giving me his critique already, which I actually love because I have not read it. But I'm guessing because Jeremy read it. Jeremy's our founder. He's way smarter than me. He thinks it's a really good read. It doesn't mean he agrees with everything in the book, but he still thinks it's a really good read. Summit is an organization down in Manitou Springs. They're just like a big like a leadership and discipleship school. So those books are free. The book is talking about if Christians should support Israel. It talks about some of these talking points that Jax was talking about, and it gives clarity. It gives biblical clarity, but it just gives logical clarity too. Like, what's the reality of some of these claims? So grab a book. It's completely free. It's completely free. I don't need to say that redundantly. Nate, thank you so much for letting us have this event. I thought it went great.
Yes.
We've had like 3 or 4 of these already, and so it's been awesome. So thank you to all of you guys. Did you guys get something out of this? Okay.
Oh, can we get a hand for Jax and for David? Thank you guys so much. I really feel honored and really appreciate it. So thank you for coming out.
Awesome. Now, Nate, I hand it over to you.
Okay. See you guys. Good night. That's it. We're back to our regular stuff on next week, and then we're going camping. And then we'll fit in a worship night in there somewhere. So I'll let you guys know. But that's it for tonight. Thank you, guys.